What's up, everybody? Good afternoon. We're going to conclude our look through the free agent tight ends in this video here. Want to take a look at some more guys who would maybe slot in as backups, tight end threes, with perhaps a little bit of upside to become tight end twos. And it really depends on how you want to use the tight end in your offense, right? Do you want to use a lot of tight end stuff like we did the last 2 years? Or do you want to be more like a team like the Rams that lives in three receiver personnel? So, obviously the list here is really long, but I've narrowed it down to a few guys that I think are really notable that are available because a lot of these guys are pretty synonymous, right? Like you can go out there and just go get somebody like a Tyler Croft for the Vetmin. You can go get a guy like a Harrison Bryant for the Vetmin. And there's not really much to discuss there, right? Some guys who would do a little bit more for me than just the bare minimum of saying, oh, we signed a player, would include, first guy we're going to talk about in this video would be Adam Trautman, formerly of the Denver Broncos and New Orleans Saints. Sean Payton brought him from the Saints to the Broncos last year. This guy has done fairly well over the last few years as a backup tight end in this offense. He's actually started a lot of games. He's not a huge part of that offense, but Sean Payton liked him enough to bring him over from New Orleans to Denver. Makes me think they're probably going to keep him, honestly. But for the moment, he's still going to be available in about a month here. And you can kind of see the consistent tight end 3, tight end 2 type production. PFF is not a big fan of his play, by the way, for however you consider that. But he's still relatively young. He just turned 27. So we're talking about a guy here who may have room to grow and is probably just about to hit his prime. He's got good size. And he was a former third-round pick, so there's some talent here. Spotrac has an estimated contract for him. It's a longer-term deal, but the per-year money is still reasonable. 3 years, 11.2, which comes out to about $3.7 million per year. And, I mean, it's obviously more money total, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not radically different from the contracts we were talking about earlier. It's a little bit more, but there's a reason why that is. This guy has actually been consistently productive for 4 years. It's not huge production, but it's enough to maybe get himself, like, even if it's not this, it's probably going to be like 3.5 million a year. Maybe he doesn't quite get to the 3.7, but he's probably going to get close. So I wouldn't be against that if there's something there that you like with Adam Trautman. He's got more consistent production than a lot of even the bigger tight ends that we talked about in the videos this morning. So Adam Trautman would be the first guy in this collection that would kind of get my attention, even though obviously you wouldn't really want him to be a tight end 1, and maybe you're even pushing it a little bit with the tight end 2 stuff. But he does have upside to grow beyond that. Next guy would be Pharaoh Brown of the New England Patriots. He's coming off an okay season for them. He's been bouncing around the league for a while now. He's been with the Raiders, he's been with the Browns, he's been with the Texans, and then he found himself on the Patriots and had a career year. Now, career year in his case was 200 yards because he had done so little in his career before. But this is a guy who doesn't have a lot of miles on his body, so even though he's turning 30 soon here, it's not really going to be that big of a deal. And we are talking here about a player who has consistently managed to play in most of the games that he's been eligible for over the last several years. And PFF actually, for whatever it's worth, it's not a big sample size, but they were mostly impressed by him. They like him a good amount. And Spotrac has him at 1 year 2.6, 2.7 approximately. So that would be a pretty reasonable cost. That's a good kick the can down the road option, somebody to just hold the fort down as a reserve tight end on your team for a year while you try to figure out your long term. Not a bad idea. And he has a little bit of upside here. And, Spotrac does not do these market value pages for everyone. So when they do it for somebody, it usually means they foresee that guy being of some NFL relevance in the future, or at the very least, somebody who's going to get some money here. So Pharaoh Brown would be a nice guy to kind of round out the roster, I think. If you want to go forward with something like Disley and a rookie, and then have Pharaoh Brown behind those two guys, I think that works very well. And the final guy I want to look at in this video would be Brock Wright. Brock Wright of the Detroit Lions. Now, this guy is restricted, so Detroit can keep him if they want to. I don't know if they will, because he didn't do a ton for them last year. But Brock Wright was a guy who seemed like he was coming along kind of nicely here, had 100 yards in 2021, 200 in 2022, 4 touchdowns as that Detroit passing offense kind of sparked to life at the end of the season. And then in 2023, he just kind of became less relevant. Not even 100 yards, played 14 games, so he had opportunities, just wasn't really a big part of what they were doing there. But efficient, relatively efficient. He caught almost everything they threw his way. He's been efficient his whole career with catches, but in 2023, he was really, really good at catching everything that came his way. And this is a guy who's still relatively young, right? Like, he's going to turn 26 mid-season next year, all right? He is coming off an injury, so that's obviously a little bit concerning. But for the most part in his career, he's been able to stay on the field. In 2022, he played in all 17 games. So I don't think we're at a point where we can say we're really super concerned about his ability to stay on the field. PFF, not a fan. Whatever. Not a fan. Again, we're talking about a small sample size here. But 2022 was a bigger sample size. They still didn't really like him very much. So if you want to take that into consideration, sure. But again, we're not looking for a guy who's great. We're looking for a guy who can sit on the bench and in the event of an emergency has some upside to be somebody who can contribute. I believe this guy's also considered to be a good blocker, by the way. So there's something here, and it catches my attention more than most of the guys on this list. Now, Spotrac did do an estimated value, market value for him. I think this is going to be high. This is 3 years, $13.5 million. I don't think he gets $4.5 million per year. I think because he is coming off a year where he didn't do that much and he didn't have that breakout season people were expecting, I think it's going to be somewhere closer to like 3 year. Maybe it will be the 3 years, but it'll be closer to like 3 to $3.5 million. So I'm looking more around that range. Now he's restricted, so the Lions could keep him right of first refusal for like 1 year, $2.8 million, and they may elect to do that, but they may not. Obviously, the way they used him last year, they don't seem to value him that much because he played in most of the games and just didn't get the ball his way that much. So for me, if they decide to let him go, there's something here. And if you can get him for more along the lines of like 3 years, $9 million or 3 years, $10 million, I think that would be a pretty good option to kind of secure the end of the bench in your tight end room. Because you're not expecting this guy to ever become like a starter. Tight end 2 might be a reach, but he's somebody who's there for you. He's somebody who is better than a Tyler Mabry, and when somebody gets hurt, somebody goes down, or you just need your third tight end to get out there for a few snaps, he's good. He's going to be able to get the job done. So those would be the 3 guys that stand out to me from this collection, but it's a long list of guys, right? And a lot of these guys would be pretty serviceable in that role, right? Like Albert O. Remember all the hype he got in Denver a couple years ago? Albert Ogwegbukam, or I definitely messed that one up, but whatever. He's available this offseason as an unrestricted free agent. You're going to be able to get him for very cheap if that's somebody you like. Kenny Yeboah is restricted, but he could become free for sure. Guys like Ross Dwelly, I remember he got a touchdown against the Seahawks 2 years ago, 2022. Mercedes Lewis still kicking around this league at age 40. Might be fun to have him for a little bit. There are guys out there, but those would be the guys who stand out to me as reserve types, somebody who you get just to kind of chill out, collect a little bit of money, play a handful of snaps a game, be available in case of an injury emergency, and just, not rock the boat. All right, more stuff coming later. Let me know what you guys think about this tight end crop in free agency. Those are the guys who stand out to me. Did I miss anybody? Let me know. Go Hawks.